I feel like we're at a constant fight with ourselves. I feel like this whole you versus you mentality is sort of gotten under a lot of people's skin, and I realize that it is the way that many of us live out our life, but I don't think it's the way that it should be lived. When you're constantly living in a world that's you versus you, then you can never win. You can never win. I feel like our mind always creates a potential, always creates a reality of ourselves that's sort of fictitious in the sense that, it's all achieving. It has no faults, it has nothing. It's perfect. And that's because we fail to acknowledge our negativity. We fail to become at peace with it. So when, you know, we encounter an event, a circumstance where that negativity is shown, we reference it to our positivity. We reference ourselves. And in that comparison to the self, we steal our own joy. I realize comparison isn't necessarily something that's always inherent to your relationships with other people, but your relationship to yourself. And I feel like that's why a lot of people feel guilt and shame. Not to say that those things are uncharacteristic, because of course, if you do something negative, you should feel that. But that's not to say that you should live in that and let it define your character. I think that the whole point is to sort of understand where you can be better. Understand that it's not necessarily you versus you, but you and you. You sort of have to live up to your highest potential, but it shouldn't be a stressful thing. It should be a great thing. It should be a happy thing. In an effort to understand, to cultivate, and to bring more life into yourself, you help yourself out. Instead of that comparison, you can do uplifting. If you can imagine yourself doing something positive or doing something this way or doing something that way, then why not actually try to apply those things? I feel like it's because we don't instantiate into the real world that it doesn't happen. Because we don't make it real enough in our heads or real enough in reality for us to actually achieve almost anything. And I guess I didn't really realize this till recently, but you sort of have to be intent with watching and content with watching. You know, not necessarily expecting anything out of the world or necessarily yourself. You know, I couldn't say that I don't have expectations for myself, but I have a routine. I have things I'm gonna do, but I don't necessarily expect it to be done. I guarantee it's going to be done. It's about holding those promises true to yourself, and I guess building up your security and your worth in your own action. Realizing that your fulfillment is ultimately defined by you. Your satisfaction is ultimately defined by you, and it can only be defined by you. You can't constantly live in reference to an idea that you don't truly subscribe to. You have to learn how to live by your own strings and write your own story. And I know I say that a lot in almost every video, but I think it's very important to realize that, you're not lost. You need to keep going. If you can't acknowledge where you are, then you have no way of knowing how long it's going to take or how to even get to the next point. If you don't know where you are on the map, then it doesn't help. To know any direction, to know where you're going to go, you have to understand where you are. And I think a lot of people don't understand where they are. And I don't necessarily understand it either, because I think trying to understand it is exactly what puts us in that place of loss. Because we're not just opening our eyes to see. A lot of people ask, who am I? What am I doing? What am I doing? Open your eyes. That's what you're doing. And you have to decide whether or not, that's what you want to be doing in the moment. Do you want to be stuck in constant reflection, sitting and wondering what you're doing in the moment and how that's contributing to this, how that's contributing to that, or figuring out something that could contribute and just doing it, or just doing something that makes you feel more like yourself? I feel like any contribution to the self is contribution to your life as a whole. The more we understand ourselves, the more we understand our world, and the more we're able to actually traverse it. And it all starts with, sort of letting go. Letting go of your expectation for yourself, letting go of the expectation for the world. And in saying the expectation for the self, I don't mean don't hold yourself accountable. Of course, hold yourself accountable, but do so in a way that's not necessarily stressful. Do so in a way that's sort of like you're just keeping a promise to yourself. I feel like expectation has such a negative connotation. It's like we want something to go a certain way, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think the ultimate choice we have to make is to just do our best. If you give your all to a situation, regardless of its outcome, even if it is negative. Okay, you can feel that negativity, but at the end of the day, you did your very best. And it's about being conscious enough and present enough with yourself to understand when you actually are doing your best, when you actually are giving your 100% effort, when you actually are, investing yourself into these situations. Because I feel like a lot of times we put half of ourselves, we put part of ourselves, and I feel like that's part of that you versus you mentality. Because we feel like if we apply ourselves to a situation, if we truly put ourselves within it, and we fail and we find something we're not good at, then that means it's all of us that's not good. When that's not the case. I feel like a life constantly, acknowledging your shortcomings isn't worthwhile. Not to say that they shouldn't be acknowledged, but to say that, you know, your acknowledgement of your shortcomings isn't you. It's part of your expression for sure, but it's not your embodiment. It's not what's inside of you. I feel like a lot of people get caught up in that 1%, and it's a very easy thing to get caught up in. And I feel like a lot of people don't even understand how the way they express themselves sort of impacts them. Not necessarily other people, because we can see it, but themselves. You have to understand the freedom that you can get just by expressing yourself in a way that's truly honest, truly genuine to yourself. Because once you start doing that, once you start truly understanding where you are, then you know what you need to do to get where you want to go. If you are in the middle of the woods and you don't know which direction to go, you don't know this, you don't know that, and you don't know where you are, then you're lost. But if you know where you are, that's when you can start to make a little bit of progress. That's when you can start to move. And, it's like I said, you can't heal a wound you don't acknowledge. I feel like a lot of times that you versus you mentality is just us not acknowledging that we have to hold ourselves a little bit more accountable, or actually hold up our end of the bargain when it comes to ourselves in order to find happiness. Like, for example, I've been doing a routine probably I wouldn't say the whole summer, but I've been trying to do it the whole summer, and I feel like I finally got into the niche of it probably like a couple weeks ago. And it feels like I'm back on, my best mentality to my best. Not to say that I don't have moments where I'm down, not to say I don't have this, that, and the other, but to say that I honestly feel like once you apply yourself to everything in a sort of conscious way, you truly try your best. And, sometimes you fall out of it, sometimes you can't be present. But once you realize you're not being present, it's just about getting that presence again and patting yourself on the back for even getting back to that point. Sometimes a fall down is an affirmation of standing. But, don't live in it. Don't necessarily relish in it. You celebrate, cheer for yourself, but keep moving. I feel like any affirmation of self is worthwhile, and it's long lasting as long as it keeps happening. It's not like you have to constantly tell yourself these things, but you have to mean it when you say it. Be genuine to yourself, because if you're not genuine to yourself, you can't be genuine to other people. If you dislike something that someone does, if you dislike this and that and the other, and it's truly detrimental to your character, then you have to share it. I feel like it's sort of a waste of time to not be yourself. You could die tomorrow. I'm not wishing on nobody. I'm gonna knock on wood for y'all, but life's too short to be living it in a fictitious reality. I feel like it's very important to be yourself, and who you are changes. Who you are doesn't have to be a solid thing. If you feel like you're negative now, and if you truly are negative now, that doesn't mean you always have to be that way. I feel like the true start of anyone overcoming their negativity is acknowledging it. Pinpointing the source of the issue, pinpointing where you want to sort of start changing. And I feel like that's where you bring in that you and you mentality. Because it's not you versus you, it's you and you. It's about helping yourself and holding yourself accountable. Like, I didn't want to get out of bed today, and I was just like, that's not what I do. Or I just told myself, like, but you want, more. You want to use your energy for something better. So you get up and you start moving, because it's your life. If you want to sit there and waste your experience and stuff that's going to make you just feel bad about yourself, then don't do it. You know, it's important to try to instantiate yourself in what you somewhat like doing. And I get it. Sometimes it's hard to find those little things that make you feel like yourself. And I feel like a lot of people don't find them because they think that they should like what everyone else likes. That's not to say you shouldn't, you know, but that's to say that, you know, sometimes what works for others isn't always going to work for you. And that's why it's important to realize it only has to make sense to you. Of course, be moral and understanding with your stuff, because, you know, you don't want to harm other people, but you want to understand yourself. So, you know, try to find something that's a good in between them. For me, that's just like art, any expression, any way of sort of bringing outside what's inside of you. And I feel like that's the most important part of you and you is understanding. Not necessarily understanding of yourself, but understanding why you ask why sometimes. Understand why you have these certain questions about yourself, and understand what puts you in your moods and what allows you to be a certain way. You know, I feel like a lot of what upsets us about other people is about ourselves. You know, it's because we can't allow, you know, certain things to exist, and we feel like our viewpoint or our instantiation of the world has to be the way. And of course, there are going to be situations where you're like, okay, you know, it really shouldn't be that way, or it really, you know, you feel like your point is valid, and you should always give yourself that validation. But you have to realize that, you know, everyone's living in their own complex life, and it's too short to be caught up in their viewpoint and to be dragged down by it. You know, just because people disagree with you, just because this, that, and the other happens, does not mean you're incorrect. It just means they see it differently than you do. And you have to learn to accept that, because they aren't you. You know, you have to give yourself affirmation by allowing others to have their own perspective, by allowing others to be different. You know, the second you ask for their validation is the second you ask for them to tell you if you're right or not, to tell them if you are you. And the only person who can define you is you, you know? And that's why I feel like it's important to be genuine to yourself, genuine to how you feel about certain things, because at the end of the day, you have to live with your decisions. And, you know, it's about whether you want to live in angst or live in freedom. Freedom from your own expectation or other people's expectations. Freedom from expectation in general. That's really what I've been on recently, because I've been trying to understand a better way to sort of stay in a, not necessarily stay in a positive mentality, but stay present without necessarily thinking of what I want to go right. Like, I could be like, oh, I want to hold this intently in my heart. Like, I want to have a good intention about this, that, and the other, to make sure that I'm moving in that positive direction. But then it got to a point where I was like, why am I doing that? Like, it's a good thing, of course, in practice, but I found out a sort of better way to do it. And I'd like to share it. I don't know if it's going to work for everybody, but it's the point I'm at. Instead of trying to intuit, instead of trying to, you know, hold that intention, you know, you're still holding it in a way, but instead of looking for it, just watch it. Instead of looking for it, watch it unfold. Be like, in a sense, I can't wait to see this happen. Like, I can't wait to see what life has to bring to me. Like, tomorrow's going to be beautiful, just because tomorrow's going to be a great day. And then tomorrow comes, and, you know, you just smile and say, today is yesterday's tomorrow. Today's the good day I was hoping for, you know. And sometimes that sort of childlike optimism helps out a lot more than you think. You know, I feel like it's because we try to suppress that nature in ourselves, that, you know, a lot of things sort of get on top of us and force us to be a certain way. And I feel like it's just important to be sort of at peace with yourself and understanding, realizing that, you know, change takes time, and whatever you want to do, whatever you want to change, whoever you want to become is already right here now. You just have to open your eyes enough to see it. Open enough to see the ways in which you can act in accordance to how you want to be. Because if you don't acknowledge where you are, you're never going to get anywhere. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed the outdoor video yesterday. Let me know if I should keep doing it. I know the audio is crazy because of the background noise, but, you know, I did what I could. I tried my best, honestly. And I'll try to do more if y'all rocking with it. You know, if not, I might still make a couple outdoor for myself and get a tripod, do whatever I need to do. But All in all, thank you guys for the support. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, I'm sure I did. Please take care of yourself. Make sure you're being a friend to yourself, being kind to yourself. Realize that, if you're not gonna help yourself, then who will? If you're not gonna appreciate yourself, who will? And a lot of people can't see the wounds that you hold and the things that you carry. So it's up to you to shed that weight and heal those wounds. So thank you, and